Welcome to the virtual unveiling of our plaque commemorating the Great Vancouver Island Coal Strike of 1912 to 1914. The plaque is located in Dallas Square in downtown Nanaimo. My name is Donna Sacuta, and I am the Executive Director of the BC Labour Heritage Centre. Our office in Burnaby is located on the ancestral and unceded homelands of the Hunkamino and Squamish-speaking peoples. The BC Labour Heritage Centre was established in 2004. We are a registered non-profit society. Our purpose is to preserve, document, and present the rich history of working people in British Columbia. Every community in this province has a story to tell about the role of working people in building our province. Yet, few of the historical markers scattered across BC pay tribute to those events and the working women and men involved in these stories. Our Plaques Around the Province project seeks to change that. Since 2016, we have partnered with other organizations to commission and install union-made cast bronze plaques in publicly accessible locations. The Great Vancouver Island Coal Strike plaque in Nanaimo is the 23rd that we have completed over the past 4 years. We have asked Nanaimo Mayor Leonard Krog to bring greetings.
Gathered here in the traditional territory of the Jenn First Nation, we today recognize the installation of an important plaque, recognizing one of the most important periods of history in this city and this province in the fight for social and economic justice, pursued by striking miners in the Great Coal Strike of 1912-1914 that involved strikers up and down the Central Island from Ladysmith to Cumberland. What happened at that event and during those difficult times was the gathering of working people trying to secure safety in the workplace and secure decent wages and decent working conditions. It is an important part of British Columbia's history, and I'm delighted to recognize its installation, to thank all those who participated in ensuring its installation, as we recognize also in this city's crest faith and labor. They had faith that they could build a better community and better conditions for workers, particularly in the mines, and faith that it would come to pass. And so labor is to be congratulated as we recognize them today in this historic installation, a symbol to all and a reminder of the importance of their history and contribution in Nanaimo.
Our partner in this plaque is the Nanaimo, Duncan, and District Labour Council. We are grateful for their support and for the assistance of the City of Nanaimo and WorkSafe BC. I'd like to introduce Labour Council President Jenn McPherson.
Hi, my name is Jenn McPherson, President of the Nanaimo, Duncan and District Labour Council. The NDDLC is proud to have worked with the BC Labour Heritage Centre and to be the community sponsor for this Labour History plaque. There is a rich labour history here in central Vancouver Island, and we are proud to have a piece of that labour history preserved in this plaque for people to learn from for years to come. Plaques like this are being installed in areas all across the province in collaborations with labour councils. Labour councils represent unionized workers in regions across the province, and on behalf of all unionized workers in this region, we are proud to have sponsored this plaque here in Nanaimo. We encourage people to come out, take a look at this labour plaque, and learn a bit more about the labour history here in this region. This plaque can be found at the corner of Front and Church Street in downtown Nanaimo. Thank you.
The story of what happened on Vancouver Island between 1912 and 1914 is an important part of BC's labour history. Welcome, former Labour journalist and author of On the Line, A History of the British Columbia Labour Movement, Rod Mickleburgh.
By 1912, the rich coal seams of Vancouver Island had been producing untold wealth for nearly 50 years. But in those rapacious times, the only ones getting rich were the mine owners. Those who actually produced the coal, working long hours in abysmal conditions far beneath the surface, earned barely enough to raise a family. Not only was their work arduous for meager pay, miners paid a terrible human cost. The mines that stretched from Nanaimo to Cumberland were among the most dangerous in the world. Hundreds died. Only 3 years earlier, 32 miners perished in a gas explosion at the large extension mine just south of Nanaimo. The miners didn't just take it. Almost from the beginning, they fought back in strike after strike for better wages and safe, decent working conditions. Despite all that valor, however, they could not crack the combined forces of the hard-nosed anti-union mine owners, equally anti-union governments, vigilantes, and the police, who protected strikebreakers brought in to keep the mines running. Finally, after all those defeats, and still without basic worker rights, the coal miners of Vancouver Island decided on one last all-out battle. To help them in the struggle ahead, they invited in the United Mine Workers of America. The Mine Workers Union was tough, it was experienced, and it had the resources to support a strike no matter how long it lasted. The result was the Great Vancouver Island Coal Strike, the most protracted, fiercely fought union dispute in the province's history. By the time it ended, nearly 2 years later, one miner was dead. There had been violence, mass jailings, and the dispatch of hundreds of armed militia, bolstered by a pair of mounted Maxim machine guns. Many miners never worked again in the island's coal mines. And among the blacklisted strikers was a Cumberland coal miner named Ginger Goodwin, who went on to become one of BC's most prominent labor leaders, only to be gunned down by a special constable in 1918 and widely celebrated today as a martyr to the cause of organized labor. Truly, this was a strike for the ages. It began as a one-day protest in the Cumberland and Extension mines against the firing of a union safety activist on September 16, 1912. The next day, the mine owners locked out the protesting miners, all 1,600 of them. The bare-knuckle fight was on, with neither side willing to give an inch. The owners reacted by evicting the miners from their homes and threatening ethnic Chinese and Japanese miners with similar evictions and possible deportation if they did not keep working as strikebreakers. Since racism kept them out of the union, they had little choice but to comply. The strikers had great spirit from the beginning. Strikebreakers brought in by the owners were greeted with boisterous protest parades, then heckled on their way to work and harassed by loud, discordant music. Wives, daughters, and sisters of the strikers were formidable allies. They raised money, staged support marches and dances. It also took after the strikebreakers. 2 were fined $20 each for having the nerve to call them scabs. But after 8 months, with mines close to normal operation, their owners remained defiant. On May Day, 1913, after a huge union parade through the streets of Ladysmith, 1,000 miners packed the Princess Theatre in Nanaimo and voted to close down every mine on Vancouver Island. The following day, 3,700 miners from Extension to Cumberland were off the job. The miners knew they could not hope to win the strike without stopping the flood of strikebreakers. Their frustration boiled over on a weekend in mid-August. Crowds surged all night through the streets of Ladysmith, smashing windows of mine supervisors and strikebreakers. Someone, not a striker, tossed a stick of dynamite into the bedroom of a miner who had gone back to work. It blew off his right hand. Chinatowns in Ladysmith and Extension were ransacked. Strikers in Nanaimo turned back a steamer with scabs and special constables aboard. Large numbers of strikers barricaded the entrance to the Extension mine, trapping working miners underground. Some fired shots back at the strikers. It was a wild weekend. But once it was out of their system, the striking miners resumed peaceful picketing. That didn't matter to the government. In came the militia, complete with Maxim machine guns. Bayonet-wielding soldiers stormed union meetings in Nanaimo, Ladysmith, and Extension, rounding up strikers and marching them off to jail. 213 were arrested on charges from assault to the terrible crime of picketing. Those convicted received harsh sentences, ranging as high as 2 years. Tragically, one of them, Joseph Mayers, died in Ocala prison from poor medical treatment after falling ill. A champion cyclist, he was just 21 years old. Instead of cowing the strikers, however, the militia galvanized workers across the province, who considered it a declaration of war. The hastily formed BC Miners Liberation League raised money, held support marches, and campaigned for the jailed strikers to be released. In June of 1914, the famous 77-year-old Mother Jones, known far and wide in union mining circles for her defiant support of working miners, traveled all the way from Colorado to Nanaimo to raise the strikers' spirits. It all went for naught. As time went by, the strikers' situation became increasingly desperate. The union ran out of strike pay. The gathering war clouds in Europe squelched attempts to muster a 48-hour general strike in support of the miners. In August of 1914, they made the painful decision to end their heroic 23-month struggle that remains unrivaled in the annals of BC labor. Vancouver Island coal miners had to wait until the mid-1930s for their mines to be unionized at last. But the great struggle of their predecessors 20 years earlier deserves to be remembered as one of the most inspiring chapters in this province's long, colorful history.
Our podcast, On the Line, Stories of BC Workers, will feature an episode on the Great Vancouver Island Coal Strike. Subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Check out our website for more resources, including videos and lesson plans, as well as links to more information about BC's labor history.